Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome back to the free-to-play review. So today's topic is going to be the Sylvan summon pool, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like it's been a while since we've had a summon pool, at least since I've covered one summon pool, but I digress here. But yes, the Sylvan summon pool, where of course the headline champion is the latest and I guess final faction unity champion, at least for the current or existing factions in the game for the Sylvan Watchers, on top of a handful of legendaries and a handful of epics, of course, all of them being Sylvan Watchers. So from what I understand about this guy's kit, he does have a decent amount of damage throughout his entire kit, a little bit of control, stun on the A1, lots of poison manipulation here, and then a single target enemy max HP hit here, which can also do B and AoE depending on how many faction allies you have and whatnot. So he's centered around, you know, poisons and stuff, placing poisons and placing continuous heals and taking advantage of the fact that he has continuous heals on and all this stuff. So he's an intriguing champion from what I've seen from test server footage. He hits kind of hard, but he's not someone that I'm personally interested in that much, mainly because I happen to not have that many Sylvan Watchers anyway, so I wouldn't really be able to put a good team around him. But aside from him, legendaries, I think there are a handful of standout ones. Aoster Dreamsong, one of the best fusions, most underrated fusions, I should say, from last year. Glakead, the Meltwater, I think I've kind of underrated him, but he is pretty decent. He's pretty serviceable. Decent revive here, increased accuracy, increased defense if you don't need to revive people, and then kind of a Duchess-esque move here with increased attack and perfect veil and a turn meter fill. So lots of, or not lots, but I've seen him a few times in the arena. So as a kind of a turn meter fill champion who can provide increased attack as well as increased defense and increased accuracy. So pretty strong. Elva on board, I've talked about her many times, but I love her. The Volclans block debuffs and increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown alongside her passive, which is a lot more powerful than you might think of, the kind of hiding people who need it the most, which is the lowest HP. After she takes a turn, puts a perfect veil on them, so it just makes it harder to kill. Feral the Bark are super strong in like Hydra with increased resistance, perfect veil, block buffs, decreased accuracy, really strong combination. And then Grand Oak Patrick here, one of the best ally attack champions in the game, particularly for hard mode Fire Knight. So the point being, odds are if you get a legendary from your pulls, then you're going to get someone who's pretty darn decent. Then when it comes to the epics, obviously it's a lot more underwhelming just because of the faction in and of itself, but Mr. Edodahi is super fun. Pan the Bowhorn hits pretty darn hard from what I've heard. Crowd in the Blue is great for Fire Knight hard. Dudan the Runic is pretty useful in the Cursed City, and Moonbeam and Lockwind are used for the Lady Mikage fusion in case you're still working on that. And then Ruella has a pretty, like one of the most reliable debuffers in the game, single target with decreased defense, weaken, and decreased speed, triple hitter, 75% chance land rate, which if you don't know the math on that, it means that there's like a 99.7% chance that she lands all three of them across all three of the hits. So pretty high chance, really reliable single target debuffer. In this case, the cost for the Prism summon is going to be 40 fragments, and in this case there is one event, or one tournament I should say, where you can get some of the you can get a free summon, and it is the combination, the new tournament in the game, the Gear Ascension tournament. And so it's way up there at 12,000 points, but I do think that this is not that far away from what you'd normally have to do in a Sand Devil Turn Attack tournament. Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've heard from other people, it's kind of on par with the amount of energy that you would need to do that. Maybe even a little bit less, just because this is depending on the stuff you get from the dungeon itself, so either the oil or the extract. And as you can see here, the Phantom Shogun's Grove actually will give you more points for getting the better stuff. But yeah, so if you manage to get out to 12,100 points, which is a really random number, but 12,100 points, then you can get yourself a free summon, which as you can see here, I'm making my way towards getting. And so my plan is to try and get out there to the 12,000 for the free shot. In my case, as I kind of hinted at, my most wanted from the legendaries would be Elva Autumnborn. She's number 3 on my non-void legendary wish list, and so I'd like a shot at getting her. And more importantly, this happens to be a period where I'm just kind of ahead of the fusion for now. I guess it's not even, there's no events. But in terms of the tournaments, the Dragon Tournament is already complete for me. I am pursuing the fusion, in case you didn't know. But the Dragon Tournament, I finished that because Dungeon Divers ended last night, at least at the time of this recording, and I had to do a little bit more than normal on yesterday to get that done. You can see just barely over 2250. So in order to finish Dungeon Divers, I finished the Dragon, and then I was was way ahead on champion training the entire time, just because I'm in the mode currently right now of like purging a bunch of the rare champions that I have, because I've just been doing a lot of shard pulls lately, as you might have noticed. Like strategic still, but nonetheless a lot of shard pulls or a lot of shards have been pulled recently, so I had a backlog of rares that I wanted to just churn through. And so I ended up doing one of my more aggressive forms of champion training, which just means I end up churning through a lot of rare champions. And what happens when I do that is that I don't have to spend as much energy in the campaign, but I do get a lot of points for doing a little bit less, which just meant I had a lot more spare energy, relatively speaking, to do the Dragon tournament and focus on that. So I really didn't have to spend any gems at all. I just had a bunch of energy stored up from other events and tournaments previously, clan shop as well, and I was able to finish both of those out. So essentially, until the Ice Golem tournament starts tomorrow, I don't really have anything else to do with my energy, and so I'll be working on Sand Devil for the time being. And as you can see here, as you may have already seen, we're close to a third of the way there, and so that's going to be my goal over the next couple of days, day and a half, I guess, to get out there. And it's probably going to end up costing me some gems, but hopefully it'll be worth it, because we're going to get ourselves the Elva Autumnborn and totally not the 97% chance or whatever it is to get an epic champion, but 94% chance, of course. But yeah, 6% chance to get a legendary. Of course, this is on par with a sacred shard. 94% chance to get an epic, which is the most likely outcome. So just keep that in mind. No matter how lucky you might feel, odds are that you're going to walk away with one of the epics. So I've already discussed my plan, but what is my recommendation for you all as a free-to-play player? So if you are skipping the fusion, then I hope that you've been working on the tournament just to get the free summon. Like I said, there's a pretty decent grouping of the legendaries here up for grabs, and 7 out of 10 of them are going to be pretty decent for your account and wherever you are. And so I think it could be a good investment. And again, I think it's the best deal for those of you who are skipping the fusion, which from what I've seen is somewhere around 70-80% of people aren't doing the fusion. But even if you happen to be in my situation where you're just kind of ahead of the fusion events, then you could still work towards this anyways. But yeah, depending on your needs and desires, I do think it is worth it to pursue this particular summon pool. And those of you who follow the channel, you'll know that I definitely don't participate in every single one of these summon pools. I kind of pick and choose depending on what's going on, how much energy I have to spare and whatnot, and other things, how many excess resources I have to spare. So in this case, it just happens to overlap nicely that I do have the bandwidth to work on this one. So I do recommend that other people do the same. All right, so that's going to do it for the free-to-play review of the Sylvan summon pool. Let me know in the comment section down below what your plan is relative to this particular iteration of the summon pool. Are you working on the Gear Ascension tournament and trying to get yourself the free summon? And if so, hopefully you get the legendary that you happen to be looking for. Unfortunately, for the purposes of the fusion, it is going to be, as we saw here, a hero's path, and so we don't get to take advantage of the summon here, of the summon from the summon pool for the sake of a champion chase, which would normally be going on over the weekend. But on the flip side, it is also 2x sacreds coming up. There's a bunch of progressive chance events for a lot of faction unity champions, I guess fairly underwhelming ones if I'm going to be honest. But just keep in mind, if you are working towards your free summon, you don't have to wait until this weekend to pull it, just because it's not going to matter, because it's a hero's path, which is effectively a summon rush, meaning that you will not get credit for getting an epic or a legendary from the summon pool itself. As always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. It really does help out the channel, and feel free to hit that subscribe button down below if you are enjoying the content overall on this channel for more content just like this one in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.